On the surface, 2017's Mother is a horror film about a couple that start to encounter strangers at their front door. Beneath the surface, it's also an allegory, and as you're watching the movie, if you don't realize it's an allegory, you won't understand why anything's happening.
What are you doing?
When films use allegory, they sometimes neglect the literal story happening on screen. It all feels random because the movie's propelled by the allegory it's trying to create. The characters aren't driven by things we can relate to. The story takes a back seat to the metaphor. I'm not saying Mother is a bad movie, but it's definitely a bit more alienating and uninviting. To be clear, allegory is an artistic tool where characters and concepts in fiction are used as symbols to tell a story that's not specifically on screen. Allegory is an extended metaphor, using a whole narrative and symbols within it to tell a story instead of a small comparison between two things to show similar characteristics. In contrast, 2018's Annihilation is an allegory that manages to have a satisfying conclusion to both its literal and metaphorical narratives. Annihilation is Alex Garland's second film following his directorial debut, Ex Machina. Annihilation is an adaptation of the first book in the Southern Reach trilogy, which is also called Annihilation. Garland said in an interview with Google that this film is
an adaptation of the atmosphere,
referring to how it doesn't follow the narrative of the book. And in an interview with CNET, he says Annihilation
was a memory of the book.
Annihilation follows Lena, played by Natalie Portman, into the Shimmer, an extraterrestrial bubble shrouded in mystery. She's accompanied by an almost all-female cast played by Gina Rodriguez, Tessa Thompson, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and Tuva Novotny. When I first watched Annihilation, I enjoyed it, but I felt that the movie was trying to say something that I couldn't quite figure out on my first watch. There was so much to think about leaving the theater. Why were aliens there? Why did Lena and Kane's eyes shimmer at the end? Why was there so much emphasis on Lena's affair? There were also a lot of cancer-related things in this movie, and that's not accidental. Annihilation, while being a story about aliens coming to Earth, is also an allegory about cancer. Most of the questions that come up are a lot easier to answer when you look at this film through the lens of cancer. We're introduced to Lena while she's presenting to a class over a video of a cancer cell splitting. Lena and Kane are shown in a flashback where Lena tells Kane,
"And take a cell, circumvent the Hayflick limit, could prevent senescence."
Explaining,
"It means the cell doesn't grow old, it becomes immortal, keeps dividing, doesn't die."
This is actually true of cancer cells. Numerous times throughout this movie, cancer is directly referenced, like when Lena comments,
"You'd sure as hell call it a pathology if you saw this in a human."
And describes the way that the mutations spread as
malignant.
This isn't just specific to Lena either. Dr. Ventures has terminal cancer, and Cass had a child that died from cancer. Beyond the characters, you can see the parallels to cancer in the extraterrestrial presence in this film. The alien landing on Earth is akin to a cell becoming cancerous. The shimmer is the tumor spreading slowly and changing everything within it. Garland put plenty of details in this film to make me confident that it's talking about cancer, even if it's just one theme of the movie. One thing the cancer allegory couldn't explain was, why was Lena's affair so important to the movie?
Almost none of us commit suicide, and almost all of us self-destruct, in some way, in some part of our lives. We drink, or we smoke, we destabilize the good job, the happy marriage.
A prepossessed person is sort of dismantling their job, or they're dismantling a friendship, or they're dismantling their marriage, and so that became the kind of fixation that was overlaid onto this film. It is basically a film about self-destruction, and it has a kind of thesis within it about why we do that.
These aren't decisions, they're impulses. In fact, you're probably better equipped to explain this than I am.
What does that mean?
You're a biologist. Isn't self-destruction coded into us, programmed into each cell?
Beyond being an example of the self-destructive nature Garland wanted to show, the allegory for Lena and Kane is about their relationship. See, the shimmer doesn't just represent cancer.
But wait! There's more!
It also represents change as well as self-destruction. The shimmer for Lena and Kane is the aftermath of the affair. Lena's affair is the starting point of the movie alongside the meteor landing. Everything else we see happens after. Very intentionally, Garland shows the shimmer in one shot, directly following it with the shot of Lena and Kane laying in bed, tying the shimmer to their relationship. He also very intentionally shows us the affair immediately after Lena enters the shimmer, to let us know that this is what she's reckoning with. With this in mind, let's look at Kane. Kane can't continue once he's found out that Lena had an affair, so he goes on a journey, literally and metaphorically, into a place where he's forced to mutate and change. At the center of the Shimmer are aliens who mirror your appearance, and in a very critical way make you confront yourself. Kane killed himself and instructed his mirror to take his place, metaphorically becoming a different, almost entirely new person to continue to be with Lena. Our introduction to Kane is after he comes back from the Shimmer. He's a stranger in his own home and unfamiliar with his wife. This is a very literal representation of how people feel having been betrayed by their partner. The song Helplessly Hoping plays, expressing Lena's uncertainty as to whether or not Kane still loves her or even knows her. Helplessly Hoping also plays in the background as Lena mourns the memory of her and Kane sitting on the couch, reading together. In this scene, it seems the song is used to show Kane's uncertainty about if Lena still loved him. A very critical part of this allegory is that Kane is not well having come back from the Shimmer until Lena goes in, confronts her mirror, and kills some part of herself to move forward. Following the metaphor, this is reflecting how in any relationship, both partners need to reflect on their actions, understand the efforts their partner is putting in, and change where needed if they wish to maintain their relationship. The final shot in this film is of Lena and Kane hugging, followed by close-ups of their eyes shimmering. This seems reflective of them both having been through change and not being the same people who started this story. In respect to the theme of cancer, it also feels like an acknowledgement of how people who have had cancer but experienced remission don't just go back to the life they lived before their diagnosis. Let's not forget about the team that Lena went into the Shimmer with. They all had their own journeys.
I don't remember anything after we reached the tree line. None of us do.
When the group enters the Shimmer, they all experience a time jump where none of them remember anything since entering the Shimmer. I believe this to be a parallel to how people don't usually find cancer until it's already been growing, and in a similar vein, often don't deal with problems until they've gotten too big not to deal with. In life, we seem to let our issues get a head start.
Volunteering for this, it's not exactly something you do if your life is in perfect harmony. We're all damaged goods here.
If you look at each member of the team, you can see the different ways that people self-destruct or deal with change.
Ventress wants to face it. You want to fight it. But I don't think I want either of those things.
Josie accepts death peacefully. In a sense, she chooses to accept her new circumstances. Through the lens of cancer, she's likely choosing to stop her treatment so she can enjoy the rest of her days.
I'm at least as freaked as Josie. I'm just hiding it better.
Cass seems calm, but is really putting up a front. She's scared and doesn't show it, passing quickly and unexpectedly in the middle of the night.
What's going on? What happened? Shepherd was just next to me and something took her.
This is an obvious metaphor for how cancer takes some people, but it's also a very potent analogy for how a lot of people pretend things are fine before one day change is forced upon them. Anya becomes scared and paranoid, fighting as hard as she can. Anya is also shown at times to be avoidant, and she denies things that are happening in front of her.
There was something alive inside that man.
No, that was a trick of the light.
What?
Dr. Ventress becomes consumed literally and metaphorically by her white whale in the form of cancer, clearly represented by the Shimmer.
I've been watching the phenomenon for a while now. I profile the volunteers. I pick the teams. They enter. I watch. I watch it grow closer. There's only so long one can do that.
She becomes obsessed with understanding it to the point that she disregards her own safety and the safety of her teammates. She is the Captain Ahab to the Shimmer's Moby Dick.
We have to go back. We have to go back now.
She's right.
Right? In what sense?
We've been attacked twice. We lost one of our own. We have evidence the previous team went nuts and chopped each other up. I really don't know how much more right she has to be.
We haven't reached the lighthouse. We still don't understand the cause or the nature of the Shimmer.
Annihilation is special to me because even with all these different layers of storytelling, all the themes work with each other to give more context to less obvious details. You can better understand the indifference of the Shimmer when you compare it to a tumor, something without intention at all. The aliens land on Earth the same way a cell becomes cancerous, by chance. Life-changing events enter your life with the same randomness as the meteor landing at the lighthouse. You can pull a whole storyline out of what Kane went through even though he only has a handful of scenes. If you strip the allegories along with the thematic ideas about self-destruction and its relation to change, you'd still have a very understandable cosmic horror movie. As opposed to a movie like Mother, where if you strip out the allegory, it just becomes incomprehensible. If you engage with the allegory and themes in Annihilation, you get a great cosmic horror movie as well as an examination of human nature and change. When I first came to understand the cancer allegory in Annihilation, I wanted to dismiss the other theories I had heard about this film referencing relationship issues. Now I understand it's about both and so much more. I hope I've helped to shine some light on the themes in Annihilation and inspired you to rewatch it with these ideas in mind. So what do you think? Am I reaching, or is this all intentional? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.